Hello my dear students, welcome to computer science class. In this video class, we shall begin with the first chapter, that is typical configuration of computer system. The total weightage marks given for this chapter is 4 marks. Now let us understand the different terminologies related to the computer. So let us begin with what is a computer. As we know that computer is an automatic electronic machine that can store, recall and process the data. So why this computers has been extensively used and where all different applications the computers are being used. Alright, so computer has been extensively used in the various fields like science, engineering, business, education, training, entertainment, etc. And for what purpose? Mainly these computer can process the data with a very high speed and it can handle a large amount of or a large volume of data with a greater accuracy, and it has the ability to perform any kind of complex calculations. Therefore, the computer has been extensively used. So, the term computer actually includes a series of electrical and electronic circuits together in order to form one single unit to perform the required operations that are being required by the users. Alright, the computer doesn't have any kind of intelligence. So, therefore, it cannot perform any kind of task by itself. That is why the computer actually needs the hardware, it needs the software, data as well as the users in order to perform any kind of task. So, until and unless the computer gets instructions, it cannot perform any task by its own. Now, let us understand what is hardware, software, data and users. So what is this hardware? Hardware are the physical components of a computer system. Example, monitor, speaker, okay, the CPU, mouse, processors, motherboard, all these are the example. What is a software? Software will be the collection of instructions, or you can even refer them as the program that instructs the computer. So what task has to be performed and how the task has to be performed, or else you can even refer the software to be as set of instructions that tell the hardware what to do. Alright, next we have the data. So what is this data? Data could be any raw facts or the figures. It could be text, character, image, any data that we are going to provide as an input to the computer system for the processing purpose. So once the data is processed, we get an useful information. So that is what is a data, or else you can even refer the data as unprocessed items. Next we shall discuss about who are these users actually. The users may be referred to those who write the computer programs, that we could refer them as programmers, or the users can also be referred to the people those who will interact with the computer system. So those are being referred to as the users. Now let us have a quick glance on the block diagram of computer. So mainly the computer has been divided into 4 units, that is the input unit, the CPU, that is the processor unit, the memory unit and the output unit. Let us discuss in detail. So what is this data unit? So the data unit is a unit wherein it will allow the user to provide the data to the computer system. So it is the unit that would help the user to interact with the computer system via the input unit. So the data input unit, it will accept the data that has been provided by the user, convert that data into the computer understandable form, because the data what we are going to give here will be the raw facts, figures, okay, maybe the data in terms of character, word, file, image, right? So that what is the format we are using might be the high level language wherein the computer cannot understand. Computer can understand only the binary language, which is in terms of zeros and ones. So this input unit, after accepting the data, it will convert the data into the computer understandable form, okay, and then it will provide for the computer system. So the input which could be provided to the computer system through the input devices like keyboard, mouse, joystick, scanner, microphone, trackball, etc. Next, we shall discuss about the CPU. CPU is being considered as the brain of the computer system because it is the only unit that can read, interpret and execute the instruction systematically. Hence, the CPU is being referred to as the brain of the computer system. And apart from this, the CPU can make all kind of major decisions. It can perform all kinds of calculations. Therefore, this CPU is also responsible for controlling, coordinating and supervising the operations of the computer system. So, this CPU, that is central processing unit, is responsible for processing the input data which is provided through the input unit. So, this CPU actually consists of three units into it: the control unit, the ALU, that is arithmetic and logic unit, and it also consists of the register. Let us discuss what is this ALU. So ALU performs all kinds of arithmetic and logical calculations onto the input data. So arithmetic calculations like addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, logical operations like if, and, or, not, relational operations like less than, equals to, greater than, any kind of calculations that you are providing, this ALU unit is able to perform. Then what is the role of the control unit? The control unit is being referred to as the central nervous system because whatever the instructions will be received for the processing purpose, this control unit will break that entire series of instructions into the logical steps. Alright, and its main duty is to check, control and coordinate the overall execution of the computer system. It will check the sequence of execution of instructions, whether the instructions are being stored correctly or not, whether the instructions are being correctly executed or not. So therefore, this control unit will control and coordinates the overall functioning of the units of computer system. It even controls the input unit, memory unit as well as the output unit. Next, we shall see what is this registers. Registers are the temporary storage of this CPU. Okay, they are the temporary storage units of the CPU. These are very high speed storage units which are being placed within the CPU. Okay, but these registers are having very less storage capacity. Alright, so these registers are not being referred with the help of addresses, like how in the memory locations each one memory we are able to identify by its unique address locations, memory locations, isn't it? Like that, the register doesn't have any kinds of memory location. In fact, it could be directly accessed and manipulated by the CPU itself during the execution of the instructions. Now what kind of data this register will be storing? The register can able to store the data, instructions, addresses or any other intermediate results which are being generated by the CPU. Therefore, the registers are being referred as CPU working memory. They are always being accessed directly by the CPU. If any calculations are there, if any intermediate results has to be stored or any output result has to be stored, or if you want to have the communication between the memory, okay, if you want to provide the data to store in the memory unit, then these registers will be responsible. But they are temporary storage with a very high speed but with a very less storage capacity. So this is what is the register. So now let me explain this, how exactly the processing takes place by the CPU. So as and when the user provides the input data through the input unit, okay, the first data will come to the memory unit. The memory unit will transfer all those set of instructions for the control unit. The control unit will break down that entire instruction into series of logical steps, and each one of the sequence will be provided to the ALU for the calculation purpose. So in that time, the registers, if it has to store the data temporarily, then the ALU makes use of the registers. So once the output is being generated, that output will be provided before it has been sent to the output unit. The output will be temporary, it will be sent to the main memory. After that, the CPU will give an instruction to the output unit to display that output through the output devices. So this is how exactly the execution takes place. Now let us discuss about the memory unit or the storage unit. Here the storage unit has been actually divided into two units. One is the primary memory and the other one is the secondary memory. As we know that primary memory is also being referred to as a main memory, which consists of two types of memory, that is random access memory as well as read only memory. So what kind of information is being stored in this primary memory? It can store the data, instructions, any intermediate results, okay, output. So but all these data it can store temporarily during the processing of data. Hence primary memory is volatile in nature. That means it can store the contents only until the power supply has been provided to the computer system. Once the power supply is off, the contents in the primary memory will get erased. So the instructions is being processed, is being first brought into the main memory before the processing. So here what happens, during processing there might be exchange of memory. The exchange of data may takes place several times between the CPU and the primary memory, because it is capable of storing the data, instructions, even the intermediate results as well as the output unit. Now therefore the output has been stored into the main memory before it has been transferred to the output devices. So usually the CPU can work with this particular information that has been stored in the main memory. Now let us discuss about the secondary storage. Okay, this secondary storage devices we can also be referred as an auxiliary devices, or you can even refer the secondary storage to be as an external memory of your computer system, because it can store your data permanently. If at all if you want for the future purpose, the secondary storage helps you to store the data permanently, whereas the primary memory stores the data temporarily. Alright, so what are the different examples of secondary storage devices are magnetic tapes, optical disc, flash drives, okay, magnetic disc, your hard drive, okay, pen drives. All these are the examples of the secondary storage devices. Let us discuss about the last unit, that is output unit. So this output unit actually responsible to provide the processed data, that is information. So the result that is generated after processing of data, with the help of the output unit, the data will be, or the information will be displayed onto the output devices, like for example monitor, printers, speakers, etc., where the information might be in terms of the text, sound, image, any document, etc. So this is the explanation regarding the block diagram of computer system. I hope the explanation is clear. Now let us move on to the next topic, that we shall discuss about what is motherboard. The motherboard is a very important part of the computer system. So this motherboard is being referred to as the PCB circuit, that is PCB circuit in the sense printed circuit board. It is a very large circuit board which is consisting of many chips, ports, controllers and other electronic components mounted on it. So mounted in the sense there are various different kinds of electronic components that are being placed onto or plugged onto this motherboard. So this motherboard is being considered as the main circuit board which is present within the computer system. So every component within the computer system has to communicate through the motherboard, either by directly plugging into it or by communicating through one of its motherboard ports. That means how many different units we have into the computer system, what are the different electronic components that a computer system is having, they have to communicate through this motherboard itself. Alright, either those electronic components are directly plugged onto it, or you need to communicate via through some of the ports. So these are the ports. Later I'll be showing you what are the ports, and I'll explain you. Okay, so if any communication that has to be take place in the computer system, it is through the motherboard itself. So therefore motherboard is being considered to be as the main circuit board. So what are the different kinds of the motherboard is having the different kinds of electronic components are, it is processor, memory chips, interfaces, okay, different kinds of ports, expansion cards. All right, so therefore the motherboard can also be referred to as an hub. which is used to connect all these different kinds of components of a computer system, like the RAM, hard drive, disk drive, any optical drives, all these are being mounted onto the motherboard. All right, so this motherboard are being characterized based upon the three different factors. The first factor here is the form factor, the chipset, and the processor socket. So motherboard are being briefly characterized based upon these three factors. Now let us discuss what is this form factor. Okay, the form factor actually determines the size of the motherboard. That means what? It actually, this form factor deals with the motherboard's geometry, dimensions, and arrangements of any other electrical requirements. See, different standards have been developed to build the motherboards, which can be used in different brands. We have different brands of motherboards, like, so there are different motherboards, okay, for the different devices. For example, based upon the shape, based upon their dimension, based upon their electrical requirements, the motherboards that are being required for the desktop computer will differ in terms of size, dimension, electrical requirements comparatively to the laptop or any mobile devices. So we have a different kinds of standards are there, which are used for the different brands or the different devices. Say for an example, if we have small computer system, then it requires 9.6 inches square micro ATX motherboard it may require, or 6.7 inches square mini ATX motherboard it may require. That is all based upon its dimension. So this form factor actually determine the size of the motherboard, okay, regarding its geometry, regarding its dimensions, regarding its arrangements, it is dealing with. An example, ATX motherboard, that is ATX stands for Advanced Technology Extended Motherboard, is the most common motherboard that is used to design the desktop computer system. So this form factor, it entirely deals with the motherboard's dimensions, motherboard's geometrical and its different kinds of electrical requirements. All right, now let us discuss about what is a chipset. So how, based upon the chipset, the motherboard has been classified. So we should understand what is this chipset actually. Chipset controls the majority of the resources of the computer system. What is the main functionality of this chipset is, it actually controls and coordinates the data transfer between the various components of a computer system. See, look at this one. This is a motherboard. You can see there are various different kinds of ports. This is the CPU socket. This is a NOT chipset. This is South chipset. Okay, we have the memory slots, we have AGP slots, we have SATA connectors, we have USB connectors. So this chipset actually, this chipset is mainly responsible to provide the coordination and the data transfer between all these various electronic components. We know that this motherboard is actually providing the platform for all the different kinds of electronical components, isn't it? So then which is the component that is responsible for providing the data transfer between them is actually the chipset. I hope you are understanding. The chipset that is being integrated onto this motherboard will determine how quickly your computer can run, what are the additional features it supports, and how much memory it can access. So therefore, whenever you are choosing a motherboard, it is important to choose a motherboard which includes a recent chipset in order to maximize your computer upgradability. As the chipset is responsible for the data transfer between the electronic components, the more faster it will provide the data transfer, the faster your computer system performance will be, isn't it? Therefore, chipset will be responsible to determine how quickly your computer can run. So therefore, you have to choose a motherboard which is having the recent version of the chipset. I hope you are able to understand. So based upon chipset also, we have a different kinds of motherboards. It's like how based upon the form factor we have different motherboards. Similarly with the chipset also. The last one is the processor socket. So how we can have a different kinds of motherboards based upon the processor socket is, see, different types of motherboards, it will have different kinds of processor sockets. So we have different types of motherboards, like baby 80 motherboard, okay, 80 motherboard, extended motherboard, that is XT motherboard. So all these different have different kinds of processor sockets. See, one of the processor socket I'll be showing you here. Now this is a processor socket, white color, what you are seeing, this rectangular shape, this is a processor socket where we are actually mounting the the processor. Mounting in the sense where you are placing your processor, like Intel i3, i5, i7. So these processors will be mounted on this processor socket. We have different kinds of motherboards, all right. So different kinds of motherboards will be having different kinds of processor socket. In that, one will be the rectangular connector into which the processor will be mounted vertically, or some of the processor sockets might be it could be even the square shaped, okay, with small connectors into which the processor is directly inserted. Now these are the two different types of processor socket. Now this is a low insertion processor socket, like the older versions of motherboards will be having the LIF processor socket. Now this is a modern kinds of processor sockets. Okay, so depending upon these also we can determine the different kinds of motherboards. So this processor CPU sockets are mainly responsible, that would help you to place the processor into it. So which could be the rectangular shaped or a square shaped, or it could be even the PGA, that is pin grid array socket. So these are the things based upon which the motherboards are being characterized. Now let us discuss with the different types of motherboard. We have different kinds of motherboard. The first motherboard is XT motherboard, which stands for Extended Technology Motherboard. Then we have AT motherboard, Baby AT motherboard, and next is Advanced Technology Extended Motherboard. Let us discuss the XT motherboard. The XT motherboard, it is one of the oldest type of motherboard which consists of old model processor socket. The old model processor socket consists of low insertion force socket, that is LIF socket. Just now we have discussed the CPU socket. So this extended technology motherboard consists of the old processor socket, that is LIF sockets. And then it will consist of RAM slots, which is dual inline memory module. DIM actually stands for dual inline memory module. Then again it consists of ISA slots, that is industry standard architecture slots. Then this motherboard consists of 12-pin power connector, and it doesn't have any kinds of ports. That means what? It doesn't provide supports for having any kind of external devices that could be connected to your computer system. So let us discuss what is this XT motherboard. Look at this. This is an oldest kind of motherboard which has been available. Okay, as I discussed, it is consisting of low insertion force circuit. So this is a CPU socket, all right, that is LIF, low insertion force socket. So what kind of RAM slot it is having? It is having dual inline memory module. So actually there are two types of memory modules. Now this is what is the memory chips are being mounted onto the dual inline memory module. These are all the memory chips. You can say this is one of the memory card. Actually this is a memory card, okay, that is RAM. So it comes in the single inline memory module, and the next one is dual inline memory module. Single inline memory module, okay, it will have the less storage capacity, up to 4 MB to up to 4 MB to 64 MB data transfer it can have. Whereas if we have a dual inline memory module, then its storage capacity is more, up to 32 megabits per second, 32 MB up to 1 GB memory, the data transfer rate will be there. So this extended motherboard will be having the RAM slot of type dual inline memory module, which provides you the faster data transfer rate. So the RAM slot is of type dual inline memory module. Next, as I said, it is having the ISA slots. See, you can see this is onto your motherboard. These are the memory slots where the memory cards are being mounted. So these slots are said to be as memory slots. So what kind of memory slots we are having? That is dual inline memory module whose storage capacity or whose data transfer capacity is more comparatively to the single inline memory module. Alright, so now we have the next, as I said, the ISA slots. ISA slots are actually stands for industry standard architecture. So these ISA slots are actually mainly responsible to connect the modems and the input devices to your computer system. And as I said, this motherboard is having the 12-pin power connector. So this is what is the 12-pin power connector. And this XT motherboard doesn't have any kinds of ports. That means it has no ports to connect any external devices like your pen drives, your memory cards. Okay, so what are the examples of this XT motherboard? Pentium 1, Pentium MMX, Pentium 2 processors. So these are the examples. I hope all the concepts what we have discussed today are clear. We have completed with the different terminologies related to computer, the block diagram, then how the motherboards are being characterized, and we have started with the first type of motherboard, that is extended technology. Other further different kinds of motherboards we shall discuss in our next video class. Thank you, students.